The apartment was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. Detective Daniel Harris said, "God, no, this can't be her." His flashlight beam landed on the wall. Blood spattered in uneven arcs, a grotesque pattern like someone had painted in rage. A single phrase, smeared in thick crimson, screamed back, "She knew!" The room stank of iron and decay, the sharp sting of violence long settled. Rebecca Cole, his partner, whispered, "Danny, it's her handwriting. She wrote that. She wrote it before she died." Harris felt his throat tighten, as if invisible hands were crushing his windpipe. He muttered, "This isn't a message, it's a confession." Outside, the city kept moving, horns blaring, lives untouched by the horror inside. Inside, time stopped. The coroner's sheet lay half open on the floor. Daniel crouched, his knees popping, and said, "She fought hard." The bruises on the victim's arms spoke of a struggle no one had come to stop. Rebecca turned her face away, muttering, "This wasn't random. She knew her killer." The words fell heavy, like a death sentence. Outside the taped-off door, neighbors whispered and strained to listen. Rebecca snapped photos, each flash tearing through the dark like lightning. She whispered, "Danny, what if this connects to the others?" Harris rubbed his face hard, jaw clenched. "Then we've got a nightmare that's just begun." The room seemed smaller with each word, the air thick with dread. A sudden vibration broke the silence. Rebecca's phone. She answered, voice trembling, Yes, we found her." Harris turned sharply, watching her face drain of color as the caller spoke. She hung up slowly, whispering, "Another body. Same message." Harris's jaw tightened, fury flashing in his eyes. Daniel stood frozen, the weight of the case settling on him like a crushing tide. "Two bodies, same words. Someone's laughing at us." He looked at Rebecca, who whispered, "Not laughing, Danny. Warning." The faint hum of the city leaked through the cracked window, mocking their helplessness. The living room smelled faintly of dust and faded perfume, a shrine caught in amber. Photographs of Emily lined the shelves, smiling at birthdays, arms around friends, alive in frozen fragments. Margaret Carter sat on the sofa, hands clasped so tightly, her knuckles shone white. Her eyes flicked from Harris to the framed photo she clutched of her daughter. "She told me someone was watching her," Margaret said, voice raw, shredded by sleepless nights. "I thought it was stress. She'd been so nervous, so jumpy. I told her to rest, that things would calm down. God forgive me. I thought it was just in her head." Harris leaned forward, elbows digging into his knees. He said, "Margaret, don't do that to yourself. Whoever came after her wanted her afraid, wanted her silent. She didn't lose her mind. She fought until the last second. And she left us a clue. She was trying to protect you. She was trying to protect you." Margaret's lip trembled, her gaze fixed on the floor. "Protect me? From what? From who?" "She's gone, Detective. All I have now is the echo of her voice in this house." She lifted the photo frame as if showing it to Harris could make Emily return. "Don't let her be just another body in your files. Don't let her die screaming for nothing." Harris swallowed the knot in his throat. "She won't vanish. I'll drag the truth out no matter how many doors I have to break down." Rebecca stood in the doorway, arms crossed tight, her silhouette framed against the hall light. She said, "Danny, don't promise her the impossible." Harris turned, voice hard. "It's not a promise, it's a debt." Margaret's tearful gaze flicked between them. Rebecca softened slightly, stepping into the room. "Mrs. Carter, we'll do everything we can, but these things, they don't always end with answers." Margaret's voice cut through the silence like broken glass. "Then make this one different. I buried my daughter, Detective. I don't want to bury the truth too." Rebecca faltered, eyes flicking down, while Harris stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Rain lashed against Harris' windshield as he sat outside the Carter home, headlights off, the city blurred into streaks. He muttered, "Emily, what did you see that scared you enough to bleed the words into a wall?" His phone buzzed. Rebecca's voice cut in, clipped, frustrated. "Danny, the chief wants an update. He doesn't care about grief, he wants suspects. He wants results on his desk by morning." Harris rubbed his temples, staring at his reflection in the glass. "Results? She's not a damn spreadsheet. Tell him this. I'll find the truth even if I have to drag it out of hell." Rebecca's voice softened for just a moment. "And when hell drags you down with it." Harris whispered back, "Then I'll go willingly, as long as I take the devil with me." The precinct's harsh fluorescent lights burned away the softness of grief. Rebecca dropped a folder onto Harris' desk. Her financials, clean. No debts, no drugs, no secret life. But she pulled a smaller envelope from inside, voice tightening. These letters, no return address." Harris pulled one free, his stomach twisting as he read jagged lines etched with obsession. "I see you. I know where you go. You can't hide." He shoved the letter onto the desk, muttering, "This isn't a threat. It's a countdown." Rebecca whispered, "She kept them. Every single one. Why didn't she go to the police?" Harris's voice cracked with bitter clarity. "Because she knew the system would fail her. She knew no one would believe her until it was too late." Margaret sat in the precinct waiting area, purse clutched to her chest, eyes scanning the floor like she was looking for pieces of her daughter scattered in the tiles. Harris walked past, trench coat flaring slightly. For the briefest moment, he saw not Margaret, but his sister, her face pale, her smile gone forever. The memory sliced open scars he'd buried. He stopped, breath caught, and Margaret's voice rose in a whisper that cut like a plea. "Please, detective, don't let her fade." Harris didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fire in his eyes as he met hers was the only promise he could make. Rebecca watched from across the hall, seeing both his resolve and the cracks forming inside him. The briefing room was heavy with stale coffee and sleepless frustration. Officers shifted in their seats, files spread out like a mess no one wanted to touch. Harris stood at the head of the room. Sleeves rolled, his eyes red-rimmed from nights without sleep. He jabbed a finger at the board where Emily's photo hung. "We're not chasing shadows anymore. Whoever killed Emily Carter wanted us looking in the wrong places. He leaves messages in blood like breadcrumbs, because he thinks we'll choke on them before we ever find him." Rebecca leaned against the wall, arms folded, voice sharp but steady. "Or maybe he's not leaving breadcrumbs. Maybe he's feeding us lies. He knows how cops think, Danny. He's playing chess while you're still playing checkers." Harris shot her a look, voice low and tight. "Then I'll flip the board. I don't care how many rules I have to break." A rookie officer finally spoke, hesitant. "Sir, with respect, we've got no suspects. The evidence points to a dead end." Harris's voice thundered back, echoing off the cold walls. "Dead ends are where killers hide. Every dead end is a doorway if you push hard enough. And someone's about to get shoved through." Silence dropped over the room like a hammer. Nobody moved. Nobody dared. Peter Lang's apartment door creaked open, revealing his gaunt figure. His eyes darted like a man already hunted. "I told the police everything I know," he blurted, voice shaking. "I don't want trouble." Harris stepped forward, trench coat brushing the door frame, voice like gravel. "Trouble found you, Peter. Emily told her mother someone was watching her. And wouldn't you know it, your office window stares right into hers." Peter swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing. "I liked her, that's all. She was kind to me. But I never hurt her." Rebecca unfolded a file, her voice like a blade. "Then explain these letters. The same handwriting Emily got shows up in your place too. What are the odds, Peter?" Peter's eyes widened, panic blooming on his face. "Letters? I don't. What letters?" His words tripped over themselves, sweat gleaming on his forehead. Harris leaned in close, his whisper colder than a scream. "The kind that get people killed." Inside Peter's apartment, the stench of cigarettes and stale beer clung to the walls. Harris's eyes locked on a stack of envelopes half buried under newspapers. He pulled one out, jagged handwriting carved across the page. Rebecca's breath caught. Same hand, same obsession, same monster. Peter's voice cracked as he stammered, "I didn't write those. I don't even know how they got here. Someone's trying to make me look guilty." Harris slammed the letter down onto the table, the sound sharp as a gunshot. "And why would anyone frame you, Peter? You're nobody. Unless—" He leaned forward, voice a growl. "Unless you were closer to Emily than you want us to know." Peter's hands shook as he raised them. "I swear to you, I cared about her. That's all. She smiled at me when no one else did. She was kind." His voice cracked into something raw and pitiful. Rebecca whispered, almost to herself, "And now she's dead. And you've got her ghost sitting in your living room." The interrogation room glared with harsh fluorescent light, buzzing like a wasp nest. Peter sat at the steel table, eyes wild, hands trembling. Harris leaned over him, voice low and dangerous. "Tell me where the letters came from." Peter shook his head frantically. They just appeared. At work. At my apartment. I didn't send them. I swear it." Rebecca slammed a folder down, the sound jolting the air. "Then, explain why you kept them. You could have gone to the police, but you didn't. You sat on them like secrets you hoped no one would ever find." Peter's face twisted in anguish. "Because I was scared. Because I thought if I told anyone they'd come for me too. You don't know what it's like to feel watched every second." His voice dropped to a whisper. I thought maybe Emily and I were both trapped by the same ghost." Harris studied him in silence, eyes narrowing. He muttered under his breath, "If that's true, then you're not guilty. You're bait." Hours later, the evidence room smelled of dust and burnt coffee. Harris sat at the desk, letters spread before him like a deck of curses. His voice was low, almost broken. Why plant these in his place? Why pick him? Rebecca leaned against the file cabinet, arms crossed, eyes shadowed. Because Peter's weak, easy target, easy to paint as obsessed, unstable. They knew Woo'd eat it up. Harris rubbed his face, voice shaking with rage he barely contained. "This isn't about a killer taunting us. This is about someone inside. Someone who knows our moves before we make them." Rebecca's eyes widened. "You think it's one of ours?" Harris' voice dropped to a whisper, more terrifying than a shout. "Not one of ours. The chief. He's been steering us since day one." Rebecca's breath caught, the air between them suddenly colder. "Danny, if you're wrong, you're finished." Harris leaned back, eyes burning with conviction. "If I'm right, then so is he." The precinct buzzed with false certainty. Harris stood in front of the board, Peter Lang's photo circled in red. The chief barked, "Wrap it up, Harris. The press is circling like vultures. We need a name, and Lang is it." Harris stared at the board, jaw tight, the words clawing at his throat. "He's too clean. He's a patsy." Rebecca muttered, "Danny!" But he cut her off, slamming his fist on the desk. "Someone wants him to look guilty. They want us blind." The chief sneered, "Careful, detective. You sound like a man chasing ghosts instead of facts." Harris leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "Sometimes the facts are exactly what the ghost wants us to see." That night, Harris drove to Emily's storage unit, a key Margaret had pressed into his hand. The metallic door screeched open, revealing dust, forgotten boxes, and the faint smell of mildew. Rebecca swept her flashlight across the clutter, stopping on a locked trunk. Harris pried it open, the sound splitting the silence. Inside, journals. Emily's neat handwriting filled page after page. Rebecca flipped one open, voice trembling as she read aloud, "He's close to me, closer than I ever imagined. I can't tell them. No one will believe me, not when it's him." Harris's breath froze in his chest. She knew her killer, and he wore a badge. The revelation hollowed them out. Back at the precinct, Rebecca whispered, "If she meant what I think she meant, then someone we work with." Harris cut her off, voice grim. "Not someone, the chief." Rebecca recoiled. "Danny, that's suicide. Accusing him without proof. He'll bury you before the truth sees daylight." Harris stared at the letters spread on the table. Then we bleed for proof. Because if Emily trusted her last words to ink, we damn well owe her more than silence. The next morning, Peter Lang was found hanging in his cell. The official report called it suicide. Harris stood in the morgue, staring at the pale corpse. His voice was ice. He didn't hang himself. He was silenced. Rebecca's voice cracked. Danny, if the chief's involved. Harris interrupted, eyes narrowing. Then Lang was the bait. They dangled him in front of us, and now they've cut the string. We're chasing shadows while the real monster walks free. He slammed his hand against the cold metal table. Emily wrote, she knew. Now so do I. Later, Harris sat alone in his office, the city humming beyond the window. A knock broke the silence. Margaret Carter. Her face was pale, eyes burning. She whispered, I remember something. The last time Emily came home, she said the man who scared her smelled like smoke and leather. Harris froze. His trench coat reeked of both. He whispered to himself, Jesus. Margaret looked at him sharply, reading the guilt on his face. Not you, Danny. Someone close. Someone who wanted to be you. The words stabbed like knives. Harris realized the killer wasn't just hiding in plain sight. They were wearing a mirror image of him. The precinct was suffocating with silence. Harris marched into the chief's office, Emily's journals clutched like a weapon. The chief looked up from his desk, a calm predator behind polished wood. Harris threw the journals down, pages scattering like fallen leaves. She named you without naming you. She was terrified of someone close, and you reek of smoke and leather. You've been stringing us along, feeding us scraps, killing leads before they breathe. The chief didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned back, lit a cigarette, and exhaled slow poison. Careful, Harris. That kind of talk makes a man sound paranoid. Rebecca burst in, voice shaking. Danny, stop, this isn't the place. Harris's eyes burned. It's exactly the place, because justice doesn't wait for permission. The chief stood, cigarette glowing like a fuse. You think you've cracked the code? You've cracked nothing. The girl was unstable. She wrote fantasies. Harris snapped, fantasies don't bleed. She scratched her death into the wall with her own blood. And you think I won't see through your smug little empire of lies? Rebecca whispered. Danny, but her voice faded against the storm brewing in his chest. The chief's eyes narrowed to slits. You don't understand, do you? This city doesn't run on truth, it runs on control. And men like me keep that control intact. You tear me down, Harris, you tear down everything. Harris stepped forward, voice breaking into a growl. Then let it all burn. The tension cracked like a gunshot. Harris lunged across the desk, grabbing the chief by his lapels. Papers scattered to the floor as Rebecca screamed, Danny, stop! The chief smirked even in Harris's grip, whispering, You're just like her, too loud for your own good. Harris roared, And you're finished. Security burst into the room, weapons drawn, shouting. Rebecca threw herself between them, yelling, Don't you see? He's the one. He killed Emily. He killed Peter. He's been using us like pawns. For a moment, the room was a battlefield frozen in time. Harris shaking with rage, the chief smiling like the devil himself, and Rebecca screaming into the void, desperate to be heard. They dragged Harris back, restraining him like a criminal. The chief adjusted his collar, calm as a king untouched by rebellion. He said coolly, Detective Harris has lost perspective. He's compromised by personal grief. Harris strained against the officers, shouting, Ask him where he was the night Emily died. Ask him why Lang's suicide note doesn't exist. He's been feeding us lies since day one. Rebecca's voice cracked, pleading with the room. Open your eyes. Emily's journals, the letters, everything points back to him. But the officers only exchanged uncertain glances, trained to obey power over truth. Harris fell silent, chest heaving, his eyes locking on the chief. The silent promise in his stare was louder than any scream. This isn't over. Later, in the empty parking garage, Harris leaned against his car, his face hidden in shadow. Rebecca approached, voice breaking. Danny. What now? Harris lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the storm in his eyes. We don't go through the system anymore. The system is the disease. We go around it. Rebecca stared at him, fear mixing with loyalty. That'll destroy you. Harris exhaled smoke into the cold air, voice low and certain. Better me than her memory. His hand tightened on Emily's journal. I'm not done, Rebecca. I'll drag him down even if it kills me. The city was waking up as Harris sat alone in his apartment, blinds half closed, dawn light cutting the room into stripes of gold and shadow. Emily's journals lay open on his table, pages smeared with notes from his restless hands. He whispered to no one, "You gave me the map, Emily. And I followed it. But the cost. God. The cost." The apartment felt smaller, walls closing in with the weight of all he couldn't say. His phone buzzed. Rebecca's voice came through, low and cautious. "Danny, Internal Affairs has questions. They're circling you like sharks." Harris chuckled bitterly. "Let them circle. I'm bleeding anyway." Rebecca arrived with coffee, setting it gently on the table as if afraid it might shatter. She said softly, "They won't stop, Danny. The chief has the machine on his side. You've got scraps of paper and a gut full of anger." Harris looked up, eyes hollow. "Then that'll have to be enough." She trusted me with her last breath. Rebecca sat across from him, voice cracking. "And what about you? How much of you is left after this?" Harris stared at his reflection in the black coffee, a man he barely recognized. "Enough to finish it." At Emily's grave, Margaret Carter stood with trembling hands, clutching a single rose. Harris stood beside her, trench coat heavy around his shoulders. "Margaret said, she believed in you. She told me once, if anything ever happened, you'd be the one who wouldn't let her vanish." Harris' throat tightened, words barely escaping. "She was right. I won't stop. Not for her. Not for you." Margaret turned to him, eyes glistening with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "Just don't lose yourself, detective. I can't watch another good soul get buried." Back at the precinct, whispers followed Harris through the halls. Officers avoided his eyes, some out of fear, some out of doubt. He muttered to himself, "They don't know the truth. And if they did, they'd choke on it." Rebecca caught up, lowering her voice. "Danny, they're painting you as unstable. You're becoming the scapegoat they need." Harris stopped at his desk, slamming the journals down. "Good. Let them paint me as the villain, as long as I drag the real one into the light first." That night, Harris sat in his car overlooking the city, headlights off, engine quiet. The skyline glowed like a mirage, indifferent to the blood spilled beneath it. He whispered, "Emily, they think they've buried the truth, but graves don't hold secrets forever. They leak." He pulled a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and exhaled into the night. Rebecca's earlier words echoed in his head. "What about you?" He looked at the glowing ember, then crushed it out with shaking hands. "I don't matter anymore. Only the truth does." The city breathed below him, unaware that its reckoning was already on the way. The courthouse steps were crawling with cameras. Flashbulbs tore the morning apart as the chief strode out, calm as a man who'd written his own script. Harris stood in the crowd, hood pulled low, watching from the shadows. A reporter shouted, "Chief, are the allegations against you true?" The chief smiled, lips curling around a lie. "The truth is simple. My department is committed to justice." Harris muttered to himself, voice barely audible, "Justice died the night Emily did." His fists clenched, nails carving half-moons into his palms, but he didn't step forward. Not yet. Inside a dark evidence locker, Rebecca moved quickly, her hands trembling as she photographed the letters again. She whispered, "If they bury the truth, then I'll dig it back out." A door creaked behind her. She spun, flashlight beam slicing the shadows. Harris stood in the doorway, face drawn, eyes hollow but burning. "You think you're the only one fighting? We're in this together, even if it kills us." Rebecca lowered the flashlight slowly, relief washing across her face. "Then we don't stop, not ever." Harris nodded once. Solemn. "Not ever." That night, Margaret Carter sat in her kitchen, a cup of tea untouched before her. She whispered into the empty room, "Emily, they're still fighting for you." A tear slipped down her cheek. From outside her window, headlights passed, casting fleeting beams of light across her face before fading back into the dark. She closed her eyes, whispering again, "Don't let them stop." The kettle hissed softly in the silence, like a ghost exhaling. Back in his car, Harris stared at the tape recorder on the seat beside him. His own voice filled the silence as he played back the confession he'd secretly recorded from the chief's office earlier. The one piece of proof he hadn't handed in yet. The chief's voice oozed from the speaker. She was going to ruin everything. She had to go. Harris' eyes closed, jaw tightening as the words replayed. He whispered, "I've got you, and when the city hears this you'll choke on your own lies." He switched the recorder off, the silence that followed heavier than the voice itself. The final moment came in silence. Harris stood alone in Emily's apartment, now cold and stripped bare, the walls freshly painted. He whispered into the empty space, "It's over, Emily. But it's never really over, is it?" He set the journal back on the shelf where it belonged, fingers brushing the spine one last time. From the hallway, a door slammed shut, a sharp echo that made him freeze. The sound lingered, heavy, final, as the screen faded to black.